Have you ever felt a spark with a woman and wondered if she's feeling it too, but couldn't quite tell? Today, I'm going to reveal the 3 subtle signs she's already feeling desire. And trust me, the third one happens right under most men's noses, and almost nobody notices it in time. Let me tell you something most people never say out loud. Many men feel deeply, intuitively, almost instinctively when something is there. When there's a connection, a tension, a quiet pull between two people, music, and yet at the exact same time, they doubt themselves. They second guess. They replay moments later, sometimes days, sometimes years after, wondering if they imagined it or missed something real. And that gap, that space between feeling and understanding is where confusion lives. My name is Laura Jones, and welcome to my channel, Laura Psychology Diary. And here's what I want you to understand very clearly and very deeply. You are not confused because you lack intelligence. Music. You are not missing these signals because you are unaware or incapable. You're missing them because no one ever taught you how attraction actually communicates itself. Music, especially from a woman's perspective. And the truth is, female desire rarely announces itself loudly. It doesn't walk into a room and declare its presence. It unfolds quietly, gradually, almost like a language made of whispers instead of words. So, let me ask you something else. What if the problem was never that you didn't know what to say? What if the real issue was that you didn't know what to look for? What if attraction was already happening around you in small, almost invisible ways, music, but you were simply looking for louder signs that never came? Because most men are taught to expect direct signals. Music, clear interest, obvious invitations. But that's not how it usually works. Not in real life, not an emotionally intelligent connection. You see, for many men, attraction feels immediate. Visual, direct. You notice someone, you feel something, and you want to move toward it. There's a clarity in that. But for many women, attraction is more like a slow opening. It's layered, it builds, it tests, it observes, it asks quietly, is this safe? Is this interesting? And only when those internal questions begin to feel answered does desire start to show itself. And here's the part that changes everything. Women rarely express desire through bold declarations. They express it through behavior, through subtle shifts, through moments that feel almost ordinary but aren't. A slightly longer glance, a touch that didn't need to happen, a reason to stay just a little longer. These are not random. They are signals, but they are quiet ones. How many times in your life have you been waiting for something obvious, something undeniable? And in that waiting, how many subtle moments may have passed right in front of you unnoticed? Music. Because once you start seeing this, really seeing it, your entire experience of connection begins to shift. Music interactions that felt neutral begin to reveal layers, and moments that once slipped through start to stand out. Music, I want to bring you into that awareness, not just intellectually, but emotionally. I want you to feel what it's like to recognize these signals in real time, to understand what they mean without overanalyzing. Music, to respond naturally, calmly, without pressure. So, let's begin with the first signal, and it's music something so simple that most people completely overlook it. Touch. But not just any touch. Not accidental contact, not social politeness. I'm talking about intentional, subtle touch. There's something fascinating that happens when a woman begins to feel comfortable around you. Her body starts to relax, and when the body relaxes, it moves differently. It opens, it reaches. Music, and touch becomes one of the first bridges between two people. Imagine this. You're in a conversation. It's light, easy, maybe even playful. You say something. Music, laughs, and as she responds, she lightly touches your arm, not dramatically, just for a second. Now, most men dismiss that instantly. They think, oh, that's nothing. She's just being friendly. And sometimes, yes, that's true. But here's what matters. Does it happen again and again? Because patterns are where meaning lives. Maybe later in the conversation, she touches your arm again, or she adjusts your sleeve jokingly, or she lightly guides you through a crowd instead of just walking beside you. These are signals. Each of these moments on their own seems insignificant, but together they begin to form a pattern of closeness. And closeness is not random. Let me tell you a story that illustrates this. A man once shared an experience with me about a small gathering he attended. Nothing special, just a friend's birthday. He met a woman there, and they started talking. The conversation flowed naturally. They laughed, shared stories, found common ground easily. During the conversation, she touched his arm a few times lightly, music briefly. He didn't think much of it. Time passed. They lost contact. Months later, they met again through mutual friends. Music. And during that second meeting, something unexpected happened. She told him very casually, "I thought you weren't interested." He was confused. He said, "What do you mean? I enjoyed talking to you." And she smiled and said, "I kept trying to show you I was interested." Music. I even kept touching your arm to see if you'd respond. He had missed every signal. Now, I want you to pause here for a moment, not just to hear that story, but to feel it. Because chances are something like that has happened to you. A moment where someone was trying to connect gently, subtly, and you didn't realize it until it was too late. And this is where psychology becomes incredibly helpful, music, because these behaviors are not random. When attraction begins to form, the brain releases certain chemicals that influence behavior. One of them is oxytocin, often called the bonding hormone. It increases feelings of trust, warmth, and connection. And touch is one of the ways it gets activated. So when a woman touches you lightly, it's not always a conscious decision. It's often a reflection of how she feels in that moment. Comfortable, open, curious, and that comfort is the doorway to deeper attraction. But here's something very important I want you to remember. One single touch does not mean everything. Context matters, repetition matters, energy matters. You are not looking for isolated moments, you are looking for patterns. And once you start noticing those patterns, something shifts inside you. You stop second-guessing every interaction. Music. You stop wondering if you imagined it. You begin to trust what you observe. And I want you to try something small but powerful. The next time you're in a conversation, pay attention to how they interact with you physically. Do they create distance or do they close it? Do they remain contained or do they reach even subtly? Because awareness begins in observation. And I'm curious, can you think of a moment where this might have happened to you? Music. A touch that felt slightly different. If you can hold on to that thought, because as we move into the second signal, things are going to become even clearer, and the second signal lives somewhere even more revealing than touch. Music. It lives in her eyes. It lives in her eyes. Now, I want you to slow down with me for a moment because this is where things become deeply revealing in a way that most people never fully understand. You've probably heard the phrase that the eyes are the window to the soul. It sounds poetic, almost cliché, something music people say without really thinking about it, but psychologically it holds a surprising amount of truth. The human eyes are one of the most honest parts of the body, music, because they reveal emotional states that are very difficult to control consciously. Music. And here's where I want to bring you back into your own experience again. Have you ever had a conversation with someone where everything felt different? Not dramatic, not obvious, but something about the way they looked at you made the moment feel more personal, more focused, almost like the rest of the world softened for a second. Music. Maybe you couldn't explain it. Maybe nothing happened on the surface, but you felt it. That feeling often begins in eye music contact, but here's the important part that most men misunderstand. Attraction doesn't usually show up as constant music staring. It's not intense, unbroken eye contact like in movies. In real life, it's much more subtle, much more rhythmic. Music. It's a pattern. She looks at you. She holds your gaze just a fraction longer than what feels socially neutral. Then she looks away, maybe downward, maybe to the side. And then, after a moment, she looks music back again. That cycle, that quiet rhythm, is one of the clearest nonverbal indicators of growing attraction. And what makes it so powerful is that it's largely unconscious. Music. It's not something most women sit there planning. It happens because the brain is responding emotionally. Music. When someone feels drawn to you, their attention naturally returns to you again and again. Now think about that. Not forced attention, not polite listening, natural return. There's something music almost magnetic about it, and I want to take you a little deeper into the psychology here because understanding this will completely change how you interpret these moments. When we see something we're attracted to, music, our nervous system responds automatically. One of those responses is pupil dilation. Music. The pupils expand slightly when we look at something we like or feel curious about. It's subtle and you're not meant to analyze it directly, but it influences the overall softness and music warmth of the gaze. So when a woman is looking at you with genuine interest, her eyes don't just look, they soften, they stay present. Music, they feel engaged and you feel that even if you don't consciously understand why.